Welcome to Kiran Study Hub. Please subscribe to my channel in the YouTube. Hello students, in this video let us study about the chapter Resource and Development. Resource. Let us see the definition of resource. Everything available in our environment which should be useful for human beings provided it is technologically accessible, economically feasible and culturally acceptable. For example, human beings have technology to extract iron ore from the nature, and the iron is converted to steel which is economically feasible, and no culture should prohibit this. Such things are called resources. The process of transformation of things available in our environment involves an interactive relationship between nature, technology and institution. For example, if we want to extract iron ore from the nature or from the land, we need technology as well as institutions. Institution means manpower and the organization. So using technology and institution, we will extract what? Iron ore from the nature. Do you think that resources are free gifts of nature as is assumed by many? No, they are not. Resources are a function of human activities. Human beings themselves are essential components of resources. They transform the material available in our environment into resources and use them. For example, there is wind. With the help using wind, the blades of the windmills is rotated. That results in producing electricity. Here the wind energy is a resource that is converted to electricity and humans are using it. The resources can be classified in the following ways. On the base of origin, it is biotic and abiotic. Biotic means living, abiotic means non-living. On the base of exhaustibility, it is renewable and non-renewable. Example of renewable is solar energy. Example of non-renewable is coal, petrol, diesel. On the base of ownership, it is individual, community, national and international. On the base of status of development, it is potential, developed, stock and reserves. Development of resources. Resources are very important for human survival as well as for maintaining the quality of life. It was believed that resources are free gifts of nature. Hence, human beings use them indiscriminately, and this has led to major problems such as depletion of resources for satisfying the greed of few individuals, and accumulation of resources in few hands, which in turn divide society into two segments, haves and have-nots, or rich and poor. Indiscriminate exploitation of resources has led to global ecological crises such as global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution, and land degradation. Few individuals and few countries are using the resources indiscriminately, and this is the most unsustainable way of living. Because of this, the future of our planet is in danger. An equitable distribution of resources has become essential for sustainable development and sustainable quality of life. Therefore, resource planning is very much essential for sustainable development. Now, let us read the definition of sustainable development. It's a development should take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present should not compromise with the needs of the future generation. The first International Earth Summit was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in June 1992. More than 100 heads of the states or countries met in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and the summit was called for addressing urgent problems of environmental protection and socio-economic development at the global level. Finally, the leaders signed the Declaration on Global Climate Change and Biological Diversity. The Rio Convention endorsed the Global Forest Principles and adapted Agenda 21 for achieving sustainable development in the 21st century. Agenda 21. It is a declaration signed by world leaders in 1992 at the Earth Summit or United Nations Conference on Environmental Development, which took place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The aim of the Agenda 21 is achieving global sustainable development, and its agenda is to combat environmental damage, reduce poverty, and prevent diseases through global cooperation on common interest, mutual needs, and shared responsibilities. One of the major objectives of Agenda 21 is that every local government such as municipality, panchayats should draw its own local agenda 21. Resource planning. Resource planning is very important for sustainable development, and it's a strategy for judicious use of resources. Resource planning is very important for a country like India with enormous diversity in the availability of resources. In India, there are regions which are rich in certain type of resources but are deficient in some other resources. There are some more regions which are self-sufficient in terms of availability of resources, and there are some other regions which have acute shortage of some vital resources. Let us come with the examples. States such as Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Madhya Pradesh are rich in minerals and coal deposits. And Arunachal Pradesh, which is one of the state in Northeast India, has abundance of water resource but lacks in infrastructure development. Whereas the state of Rajasthan is rich in solar energy and wind energy but lacks in water resources. The cold desert of Ladakh is relatively isolated from the rest of the country, but it is very rich in cultural heritage. For example, Ladakh is known for Buddhism, and we find many Buddhist monasteries in Ladakh, but it is deficient in water, infrastructure, and some vital minerals. Hence, for sustainable development and for judicious use of resources, there is a requirement for balanced resource planning at national, state, regional, and local levels. Resource planning in India. Resource planning involves three steps. First is identification of resource and doing the inventory of the resource. Here, inventory means collecting the data of all the resources. Totally, it involves surveying, mapping, and doing qualitative and quantitative estimation and measurement of the resource. Second step is evolving a planning structure with appropriate technology, skill, and institutional setup for implementing the resource development plans. The third and most important is matching the resource development plans with overall national development plans. Now let us study with an example. India's national development plan is India should move towards or progress towards electrical economy. In order to achieve the electrical economy, India needs a resource called as lithium. So lithium development plan. So lithium has to be developed, or it has to be extracted from the land, and it has to be used in making batteries, and the batteries will run the automobiles. In the lithium planning, first is we have to identify the lithium and do the lithium inventory. Later, surveying, mapping, assessment, estimation has to be done, and the government has to come up with a planning structure with technology, skill, and institution for implementing the lithium development plans. Finally, the lithium development plans are taken up by the government to achieve the national plan of electrical economy. And Indian government is putting all the efforts in achieving the goals of resource planning from first 5-year plans after independence. The availability of resources is a necessary condition for development of any region, but mere availability of resources in the absence of corresponding changes in technology and institution may hinder development, which means availability of resources is very important for countries' development, but it should be accompanied by proper technology and institution for overall development of country. There are many regions in our country that are rich in resource, but they are economically backward. On the contrary, there are some regions which have a poor resource base, but they're economically developed. And also the history of colonization reveals that rich resources in colonies were the main attractions for the foreign invaders. Means which, let us come with an example. Britishers came to India in search of resources, and they ruled India. They ruled India only because of the higher level of technological development, and they exploited the resources only because of technological development and established their supremacy over the colonies. Therefore, resources can contribute to development only when they are accompanied by appropriate technology and institutional changes. Therefore, in India, development in general and resource development in particular does not only involve availability of resource but also technology, quality of human resource, and the historical experience of the people. Resources are very vital for any developmental activity. But today, irrational consumption and overutilization of resources may lead to socio-economic and environmental problems. To overcome these problems, resource conservation at various levels is very, very important. And Mahatma Gandhi ji has spoken about resource conservation in these words. There is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed. He placed the greedy and selfish individuals and exploitative nature of modern technology as the root cause for resource depletion at the global level. And he was against mass production and he wanted to replace it with production by masses, which means he wants the sectors which gives more employment to people. Let us study about the conservation of resources at the global level. At the international level, for the first time, the Club of Rome supported resource conservation in the year 1968. Subsequently, in 1974, the Gandhian philosophy was supported by Schumacher in his book Small is Beautiful, and later in 1987, Brundtland Commission report was published. Again, in the Brundtland Commission report, resource conservation at the global level was supported, and the same report also introduced the concept of sustainable development. Later, this report became a book titled Our Common Future. In 1992, the Earth Summit was organized in Rio de Janeiro, again focused and supported the resource conservation. Thank you.